You would think on a 13-game slate, there would be a pitcher somewhere I could look at and feel good about and feel like, yeah, this guy has a great floor, a lot of safety here, no-brainer, lock him in. There are none. There are 26 pitchers for today. There are 26 pitchers who are risky in one way or another. So we're going to break things down for today, get you set for tonight's MLB DFS slate, and hopefully win you some money, which Reese is asking for, I believe, on Periscope, which doesn't even exist anymore. Either way, Reese wants free money. Reese, I like your profile pick with Zach Wilson, so let's try to win some money here for today. Welcome on into the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A. That's right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to answer your questions for the next 25 minutes to get you set for today's slate of MLB DFS. As always, no matter where you are watching, you can get your questions in. We'll answer them live here on air for today to get you set for today's slate of MLB DFS. So put those questions in. If you're watching YouTube, put them in the chat. We'll take them from Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook as well. And we'll try to win Reese some money over on Twitter. Let's talk to DJ, starting things off over there on Facebook. Hello, happy Monday, DJ. Austin Gomber, Matthew Boyd, or Adam Wainwright. So I might be very stupid, DJ. I am. But in this very specific instance, I might be very stupid. I kind of like Austin Gomber the most of those options. And the reason that that's stupid, and I know it's stupid, is because Gomber's in a terrible situation for today. He's at Coors Field, not just Coors Field, but Coors on steroids. It's not Coors Light. This is full Coors here because it's 100 degrees at Coors Field. Denver is tremendous for offense in general. It is especially tremendous when it's warm, and it's 100 degrees today, the warmest game on the slate by a wide margin. So it's the ideal weather for hitting. However, Austin Gomber is a really good pitcher. Over his past 6 starts, with the changeup usage being increased, he has a 2.86 skill interactive ERA, 28% strikeout rate, low walk rate, not a lot of hard contact against. On top of that, the Padres aren't as good against lefties as they are versus righties. 87 WRC plus versus lefties, a 116 ISO, which is the lowest on the slate. That does get boosted up because of Coors for today. But I think Gomber's pretty good, and the Padres probably aren't. So, DJ, if you don't want a negative score for your pitcher, you probably shouldn't use Gomber because that is very much within his range of outcomes for today. But I still think he's at least interesting. And I would put it that way. Wainwright's facing the Marlins. That's not bad, but not a super high strikeout kind of guy because he's just not he's not a high strikeout guy in general. He is at home. Marlins are not great. So if you want a higher floor, Wainwright's your guy there. He definitely is fine, but not a guy who fits what I want for DFS because the strikeout upside's not there. And then Matthew Boyd, the other one, Boyd, low strikeout guy facing a low strikeout team. Not going to do it for me. So I'd go Gomber, Wainwright, Boyd as the options. But again, Gomber, very, very risky. So just keep that in mind. Mike is asking, what do you think about the Reds pitcher for today? So he's talking about Vladimir Gutierrez. He knows the name but can't spell it. Understandable. That's a lot of letters for sure. Gutierrez facing the Brewers. Gutierrez did have good strikeout numbers in AAA, but they have not followed him to the majors so far. And the reason that I'm okay overlooking the good numbers in AAA is because league-wide across the minors this year, strikeout rates have been very, very high. So when I see a guy with a high strikeout rate in AAA, it doesn't do a lot for me. In the majors, Gutierrez has an 18% strikeout rate with an 8.5% swinging strike rate. Those are both low numbers. So I can't get to him from a pitching perspective for today. I think that if I were to choose one way or another, I'd probably choose to stack against him because of the low strikeout rate and because he does let up fly balls. The reason I'm not super itchy to stack the Brewers for today is that it does seem as if Gutierrez gets a lot of weak contact in the 3 starts. He has a 27% hard hit rate allowed. League average is closer to 39%, I think. Let me pull up the number here. It is league average is 39.4%. Here are pitchers for tomorrow. I'm not done with my research yet, so you can see the incomplete sheet as of right now. But well better than average for Gutierrez. And it seems like he probably did that in the minors as well. So if I had to choose, I would prefer to go with stacking against Gutierrez, but also not super itchy to do that just because he does seem like he does a good job of suppressing hard contact. Let's talk to Alvin over on YouTube. Hope you had a good weekend. Alvin, do you like the Cubs or the Reds for today? Reds are facing Eric Lauer. Lauer is a pretty decent strikeout guy. I know that he hasn't gotten a ton of strikeouts this year because it's been in shorter little bursts. He has, he tends to be on the shorter end of the stick from a length perspective. But yeah, I think he's a pretty good pitcher, so I'm not super into the Reds personally. The other one was the Cubs. They are facing... did I not have the Cubs on the... Okay, they're facing David Peterson. Ooh, okay. So I was like freaking out for a second, thought that I totally missed that game. We got a question from Aaron on Facebook about the Cubs too, asking about the weather. The weather for today, 71 degrees. Let's check out the wind speed at Wrigley. Actually, sorry, they're in New York. So winds out at 11 miles per hour. I wouldn't worry about rain for that game. They should be okay there. So not worried about the weather. I think David Peterson's pretty decent. I know his ERA this year is bad, but I don't think he's that bad of a pitcher. 25% strikeout rate, does keep the ball on the ground a pretty decent amount. So to me, I'd probably be lower on the Cubs personally. I'm not going to use Peterson as a pitcher because he has had a lot of issues with walks and not going super deep into games, but also not super itchy to stack against him. So probably keeping that one there and not stacking Cubs, despite the fact that Peterson has had some pretty rough results so far this year. Alvin asked, do you like the Royals or Cleveland more? So the Royals are facing off with Matthew Boyd. Cleveland is facing out Dean Kramer. That has now been confirmed. It will be Dean Kramer for today. I prefer Cleveland. Cleveland's playing pretty well, hitting the ball with a decent amount of authority, got some better power numbers recently. Kramer lets up a lot of fly balls and a lot of hard contact. So Cleveland, I think, is a really good stack for today. So between those two, I like Cleveland. I like both, honestly. I think that the Royals work, but I think Cleveland is like a rock solid type of stack for today, whereas Kansas City is more of another to consider. So Cleveland, definitely the good one for me, but I think they're both fine. Prefer Cleveland over Kansas City for today. Let's talk to Rob on Facebook. Which two would you use between Glasgow, Lynn, and Wood? If I can choose straight up, I would choose Glasgow and Lynn. They are my two favorite pitchers for today. Now, obviously, if you're using them together, if you're doing something that we don't advise and not playing FanDuel, and you're playing, to play both, it means that you won't get the win from both pitchers. But I think just straight up, they're the two best pitchers for today. Glasgow facing the White Sox, really tough matchup, but he's the best pitcher on this slate by a pretty wide margin. Lynn is at home, gets a high strikeout opponent with the Rays. He's been very good so far this year, great results, and he goes deep into games. So I think they are the number one and number two pitcher for today. Glasgow better for tournaments, Lynn better for cash games. So I like both them. Alex Wood is facing the Diamondbacks. He's been cutting back on his slider usage recently, which is kind of concerning for me given his injury history. Sometimes you can see guys change their pitch allocation when they are maybe not at 100%. He's been scaling back the slider usage recently. That's led to a decrease in his strikeout rate. And also, as you can see here, Arizona's been really good for some reason versus lefties this year. 109 WRC plus. They haven't struck out that much, made a lot of hard contact. So I would say Wood is someone I'm a bit wary of as a result of the issues he's had recently and the pitch usage he's had recently. Let's talk to Michael over on YouTube. Is your stack order still the Dodgers, St. Louis, and then Cleveland? The one consideration I've had is potentially bumping Cleveland up. I think that they are in a really good spot. I'm going to keep the Dodgers one. I like their spot against Spencer Howard. The consideration I've had is potentially flip-flopping the Cardinals and Cleveland. The reason I'm considering that is because Cleveland, I'd project to get more fly balls for today because Braxton Garrett does get ground balls, and that's one downside for St. Louis that Cleveland does not deal with. So right now, I think I am going to go Cleveland above St. Louis, but it's very close. They're in the same tier for me. And I think the Dodgers are in that tier too. I think it's, a tier of 3 at the top for today with the Dodgers 1, Cleveland 2, St. Louis 3, all 3 very good stacks, and all 3 I'm very, very willing to use. But I think if I were to force to rank them, I would probably put Cleveland above St. Louis by a tiny, tiny bit for today. So slight change from what it was this morning. Mike asking a season-long question. Mike, oh my, I'm not good with season-long. I try, but should I try to trade Bellinger for a number one pitcher? My outfield is JD Martinez, Jesse Winker, Bryce Harper, Ohtani, and Garcia from Texas. I like Bellinger a lot. I might try to move someone else. I don't know who I like Garcia a lot, so I don't know if I try to move him necessarily, but it depends on what you can get. I think that I would try to trade someone, though, because it does seem like you have a lot of strength there. Let's talk to Jeremiah on Facebook. Lance Lynn or Tyler Glasnow? So actually, I've had two people say Glasgow. I like that. We'll talk Glasgow instead of Tyler Glasnow. I would go with Glasnow for tournaments, Lynn for cash games. The reason I make that distinction is that Glasnow is a better ceiling. 36% strikeout rate for him this year with a 2.85 skill interactive ERA. He is the higher upside guy. The reason I skew towards Lynn for cash games is that he has fewer red flags. As you can see here, Glasnow walks a couple too many, lets up too much hard contact, lets up too many fly balls, and he's facing a team that can get you in trouble with a 108 WRC plus versus righties. So from a safety perspective, Glasnow doesn't grade out all that well, but he has the upside. So if you are trying to maximize total possible points, I would say go Glasnow. And that's my mindset personally, which is why for tournaments, I think Glasnow is number one. If you're skewing towards safety, Lynn is the preferred option. I think that Lynn is still number two for tournaments. So they're 1-2, no matter which format you're looking at, but I flip which way I'd rank them. Glasnow for tournaments, Lynn for cash games, but they are 1-2, kind of regardless of the way you're looking at things for today. Let's talk to DJ. Cubs, Cardinals, Dodgers, or Minnesota stack. Dodgers, number one for me. They are the number one stack overall on this slate. I think that they are tremendous versus Howard. He lets up a lot of walks and some tough contact. So I think the Dodgers, a lot of upside for today. Not a traditional stack because Howard does get more strikeouts than I like, but I think the Dodgers are number one. So Dodgers definitely number one there, DJ. Other options, I'd probably go the Cardinals 2. I did move them down, but they're still the third ranked stack for today. So Dodgers 1, Cardinals 2 among those options. Cubs facing Peterson, and the Twins are facing Marco Gonzalez. Gonzalez has struggled with hard contact this year. Just came back off the injured list and looked good in his first start. The second start, I think, was a bit more rough. So I think the Twins are worth a look, and I put them above the Cubs. So to me, that ranking, DJ, for you would be Dodgers 1, Cardinals 2, Twins 3, Cubs 4. Let's talk to Alvin on YouTube. Thoughts on the Cardinals lineup, favorite batters. Okay, so their lineup is out. I saw it earlier. Did not make a mental note of who was where. Tommy Edman, talked about them this morning. I like him a lot versus lefties. I'm going to like everyone 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Paul DeJong, I haven't seen enough from so far this year. Let's check out Dylan Carlson to see what we got from him versus a lefty. We're probably going to want to take a look at the broad stuff first. The broad stuff here, he has a 6.6% barrel rate this year. Not a lot of stolen bases, not a lot of power so far, but let's see if that does change when there is a lefty out there. And look at Carlson for his career, 66 plate appearances, 145 ISO. So I would say if I'm ranking out the Cardinals batters, I would go Goldschmidt, Arenado, 1 and 2. I would go Tommy Edman, number 3. He has a lot of power versus lefties, which he does not have versus righties, so a big bump up for him. Then I would go O'Neill, number 4, and Molina, number 5. All those guys would rank above Carlson for me. So ranking them, Arenado 1, Goldie 2, Edman 3, O'Neill 4, Molina 5, Carlson 6 for today, and then maybe you consider DeJong, but again, I haven't quite seen enough to be super excited about him yet. Let's pull up the game logs here because it's still pretty fresh. Maybe he's been heating up the past couple of days, but just to check. Oh, he had a solo home run on Saturday. Okay, that's cool. DeJong, okay, so 3 games since coming back. Decent number of strikeouts. He had 1 barrel. Yeah, I'm okay putting DeJong 7th on that list. Let's talk to DJ. Should I vote Patrick Wisdom in as a write-in on the All-Star ballot? Sure. Patrick Wisdom's been fun. No objections. I'm all for whoever you want to vote for the All-Star game. Just do it. If they're going to let you vote, just vote for your favorites. But vote Byron Buxton above all. Diffuse. Any shortstops in the 3,000 range that stand out, or is just paying down for an Amed Rosario or Gavin Lux the way to go. Let's pull up the 3,000 range here at shortstop for today. Let's scroll on down. And okay, so we get here to Lindor facing Arrieta. I'd be okay with him. I think that you could go Javi Baez if he plays. But I think my preference, just because it fits well with my stacks, will be towards going with Lux. I think Lux is potentially one of the best plays in the slate, regardless of position. So I'd say probably go down to Lux or Amed Rosario, just because it fits well with the stacks. Kyle, who do you prioritize from the Cleveland stacks besides Jose Ramirez? So we talked about Amed Rosario. I would say he's going to be on that list. But the guy I want above all is Bobby Bradley. They called him up from AAA. Big power numbers in AAA. He's looked good in a small sample in the majors too. Probably going to bat fifth. I haven't seen if their lineup is out as of yet. So it wasn't when I last refreshed. Let's refresh it one more time. No lineup yet. So I would say prioritizing Jose Ramirez first, Bobby Bradley second. I would probably say Amed Rosario third, Eddie Rosario fourth, Josh Naylor fifth, and Cesar Hernandez after that. If you need a second baseman, Hernandez works. He's just not like a super high upside guy. So I tend to try to avoid him when I can. Let's see if that's been changing recently for Cesar Hernandez. No stolen bases, 124 ISO. That's, I believe, increasing. So it's getting better at least, but I'm okay ranking him lower on my list just because the upside is not super high. Michael, I know you recommend or mentioned Lux amongst the Dodgers you liked. Who else do you like in the Dodgers? Yeah, Lux is, I think, like I said before, one of the best plays in the slate. But let's go through the other Dodgers options here. Stinks that there's no Muncy, stinks there's no Seager. So that stinks, to lose two legitimately very good hitters. Kind of a bummer. But other options, Mookie is going to be one of the top priorities. Lux, if Will Smith plays, I would be ecstatic about using him. Justin Turner, I tend to be like, I'm fine with him, but like he's higher salary and he doesn't have the best ISO. So I rank him behind Lux and Smith personally, just because I want the power. Matt Beatty might wind up being in there just because of the Muncy injury. So let's check out him. 133 ISO. Like that's not elite by any means. Doesn't make me feel great either. So he's probably going to bat at a decent spot in the order if he does wind up starting for today. And I'm fine with him, but he's not like someone I'm super itchy to get to, and he would rank below those other guys. Albert Pujols, I can't really get there versus righties personally. I know he's been a lot better with the Dodgers, but I can't really do it. AJ Pollock's been hitting lower in the order versus righties, but good power numbers, 224 ISO, 44% fly ball rates, like that. Let's check out Cody Bellinger here to see what his numbers look like since he returned. I know he was struggling initially, and obviously he might not be in there today either, but let's dig in just in case he does wind up playing and see how we should handle him in that event. Okay, so we press the shift button, and we'll select all these games here for Bellinger. 28% strikeout rate since returning, 070 ISO. Unselected. Let's do that again and go there. I could just change the game logs, but whatever. Okay, so he's had one barrel, which happened to be in his most recent game played. So that's a good thing. Launch angle 16.6%, little lofty. 24% fly bar, but not a lot of ground balls. So I guess that's a good thing. So I would say I'm okay with Bellinger, assuming he plays. If he does play, I would get there. So if I'm going to rank them for Michael, ranking the Dodgers, considering salary, Lux is 1, Betts is 2. I would go, if we assume Will Smith plays, I guess I can't remember who's starting for today for the Dodgers. It's Gonsolin. I have no idea who's going to catch Gonsolin. I would go Smith next, then Turner. And then I think we're down to I guess Bellinger would be after that. But to me, Betts and Lux are the two main priorities within the Dodgers for today. Let's see here. Talk to Mateo. I'm late to the party. I see you talking about the Cardinals. Which pitchers do you like for tonight? So to me, again, the top two guys are Glasgow and Lynn, depending on if you're playing a cash game or a tournament. Lynn for cash games, Glasgow for tournaments. Glasgow is very risky, but I love the upside given the strikeouts. It's a tough matchup. The White Sox very good against righties and lefties. So It's a tough situation for sure, but I still think that from an upside perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Let's say you don't want to go at Lynn or Glasgow. You're looking for other options. I mentioned Wainwright before. Maybe you could get there. The strikeout stuff is not great, I guess is what I would say. 6, 4, 6, 7. It's been getting better. He was mentioned in a Sports Illustrated article today about pitchers using sticky substances. So maybe there'll be a downtick from Wainwright as a result of that. So just be wary of that for sure. The other guy I mentioned this morning was Brad Keller facing a higher strikeout team with the Tigers. He himself has a pretty comparable strikeout rate to Wainwright. He is at 22%. Wainwright is at 22% as well. Gets a lot of ground balls, higher strikeout team with a 27% strikeout rate. So I'd say that Wainwright and Keller are in a pretty similar mold. I prefer Keller personally, but I think the length is really good for Keller. 92, 95, 98, 86, 97. Wainwright is... Oh, wait, sorry, that was Lamet. I was looking at the wrong guy. So Wainwright does go pretty deep too. But I think you kind of pick your favorite between those two if you're looking for a value play between Wainwright and Keller, but I would rather spend up for Glasgow or Lynn. Related to that, Alvin is asking about single entry, Lance Lynn or Tyler Glasgow. In single entry, I don't care if the lineup burns because I guess like my mindset is I'm probably going to mess up with either my pitcher or one of my stacks. So I just want to go for max upside. I'm okay taking risk for single entry. And to me, the risk but high upside guy is Tyler Glasgow. My hope would be that for single entry, people are like, I don't want to burn my one lineup on a guy facing the White Sox who are really good. Glasgow also does get downgraded on the road versus at home. 32% strikeout rate on the road versus 41% at home. So again, there are legitimate concerns here, and it is very risky to go Tyler Glasgow for tonight because the White Sox are good, but I still think he's worth it just because he is so good himself. I would also say, Alvin, like, I don't know if you play multiple single entry lineups, which is something I'd recommend. If you do one single entry lineup in one single entry contest, then find a different single entry contest, use a different lineup for that one. I like doing that personally. And if you're okay having a lineup that totally tanks, I might put Gomber out there. It might be very stupid, very stupid, very stupid. But why not? Let's have some fun. You might be the only person in the contest who uses him. So, I think it's worth a shot, but I'll go Glasgow if I'm choosing a single entry lineup. Rob, what do you think about Manaea versus the Angels? So Sean Manaea facing the Angels, pretty low strikeout team. He is also not the biggest strikeout guy himself, and his salary is pretty high. He is $9,900, little lofty for me, so I probably won't be going there personally. I think that he has a decent floor because he's a good pitcher, but and also the temperature is low for today, which is good. But the Angels, good offense, even against lefties. I prefer them versus righties, but they're good against lefties too, obviously, as you can see on the sheet. So you add in a low strikeout matchup with a middling strikeout pitcher and a high salary. I'm okay being lower on Manaea personally, just because of the surrounding circumstances don't add up the best for him. Let's talk to DJ. Cubs just put in their lineup. Wisdom is in. Do I play him? So again, for me, it mostly revolves around stacking, and I'm not super inclined to stack the Cubs. So probably not personally, but he's been great. He's batting cleanup, probably around $3,000 if I had to guess, unless he's just totally getting outrageous here. I thought he was $3,000. Yeah, okay, $2,900. It's fine. If you DJ, if you're a huge Cubs fan, you want to use him, go ahead. I'm not going to talk you out of it. But for me personally, because I'm lower on the Cubs, I probably will not get there. Other third baseman I'd be looking at, obviously, if you're able to get to Arenado, I would say he makes a lot of sense at $3,400. I definitely like that. Justin Turner at $4,000. It's a little lofty for sure, but I'm okay with that. That's fine. Manny Machado is facing Gomber, so don't really want to go there. Jose Ramirez, $3,700. I think that's a really good mark for him. So between Ramirez, Turner, Arenado, you've got some really good higher salaried third baseman who I'd rather get to versus going down to Wisdom. If you're looking for a value play at third base, let's try to go through that first and decide if there is someone else we could turn to there. India's facing Lauer. Don't really want to do that. Biggio. Who are the Red Sox starting? They're starting Eovaldi. You don't really want to do that. So probably not going there. Yeah, I think it might be just a good night to spend up. Hunter Dozier, $2,400 at third base, facing Matthew Boyd. Dozier had a really rough start to the year, but let's see if he's been clawing his way out of that recently. Because if he has, like, I could be pretty interested in him at $2,400 as like a value play at third base. Strikeouts still decently. Let's look at the past, let's say 3 months or 3 months. Actually, just since he came back, let's just do that. 31% strikeout rate, but 185 ISO is not too bad. The StatCast data, I have to keep selecting here, and it's got 3 barrels, 8.6% barrel rate. Ooh, he's kind of popping things up quite a bit, but a high hard hit rate. So I would say Dozier is probably the way I would go if you're trying to spend down at third base. Final question from Jerry. How do you feel about this stack? Cubs, Baltimore, and Washington. As mentioned before, the Cubs lower on my list personally because Peterson does a good job of getting ground balls, so not super into them. Baltimore is facing whoever, Giancarlo Mejia, another guy who profiles like he's going to get some ground balls and some weak contact, so not really into Baltimore either. And then Washington is facing JT Brubaker. Brubaker is actually pretty good. I couldn't get to him from a pitching perspective because he doesn't go deep enough into games, but don't really want to target him either. Jerry had a good call last week. I don't recall, Jerry, you asked about someone last week. I said no when they hit a home run. So Jerry, good call. I don't recall what it was, but I remember when I was like, oh, Jerry was talking about them today on the Facebook stream. So you had a good call last week, Jerry. I don't remember what it was, but kudos in retrospect. But either way, I think that those Votto, yes, thank you. So Joey Votto last week against the lefty. So good call by you, Jerry, there. But for me personally, I'm a little bit lower on those stacks because of whether he batted balls by Giancarlo Mejia and Peterson or the strikeout rate being good for JT Brubaker. But again, Jerry apparently on a heater. So do not doubt Jerry, my final piece of advice for today. That is all that we have here for the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A on this Monday. But tomorrow, a special one because Brandon Gadula going to break down the US Open. That's at 3:30. We are going to be talking about betting and DFS. So if you're playing some PGA DFS or betting on the US Open, tune in tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern to get Brandon Gadula's thoughts on Torrey Pines. I'll swing by at 4 p.m. for the MLB Q&A as always. Make sure you are subscribed on your platform of choice, whether it be Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. Get the subscription in there and then come back tomorrow, 3:30, to talk to Brandon and myself. If you have additional questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck for you tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Fantasy Q&A.